Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, depending on wherever you are. So, we are back right now for another edition of the AKS Community Calls. We did take a small break during the summer, so it kind of feels nice to be back, right? For the September edition. So just to recap, I mean, each month on this call, we basically go through our publicly available roadmap, and we kind of start understanding the progress that we make on each of these features, what just became generally available, what is in the preview, and then we also have other segments where we talk about some of our upcoming announcements. We talk about we take a feature and we start doing a deep dive into those features. So all of those you would definitely see those today. We are excited to have you here, have you attend the session. Just a quick housekeeping before we get started now. So first of all, we do record this call. So this call will be recorded. It would be uploaded on the AKS YouTube channel. If you don't know where to find the AKS YouTube channel, you can just go to YouTube, search for the AKS community. The link is right here on the presentation as well. So that would lead you right to the AKS community channels. It has past versions of these calls. It has a bunch of other content. We are probably at a point where we are publishing at least 3 to 4 pieces of content every week right now. So you would definitely find a lot of AKS related info over there. Do head down. If you are not already subscribed, do subscribe. I highly recommend it. Of course, we do. um, these community calls are for everyone, right? So we do want to make sure that we have a really nice, healthy discussion here of people who are extremely interested in AKS, who just want to learn AKS, wherever you might be in your AKS journey, right? Or even the container journey for that matter. We would love to share these calls. So share this call with your teams, with your peers, whoever you think it's going to be helpful for to kind of gain some insights into their with their AKS journey, right? This is an interactive call. So while we do continue with each of these pre-programmed segments, you are welcome to leave your questions in the chat. We have a Q&A section as well. You should be able to find that on top of your team's window. There is a Q&A, there is a chat. Around the end of the call, we also open the floor. We also open the mic for everyone. And there is a open mic discussion. So at that point of time, you can always feel free to just get yourself off mute and start asking your questions as well. We would love those discussions. We really love those open floor discussions, right? And lastly, we want your feedback. I mean, we really want to understand how this call works for you. What would you like to listen to on these calls, right? So if you have any feedback on the content, on the kind of things that we would want to cover on this call, or maybe on the blog, on the YouTube channel, wherever you get your content from, we would love to hear from you. So there is a QR code right here on the screen. You can either scan the QR code or just go to aka.ms/aks/content feedback, and you should be able to provide us feedback of what you think about these calls. Now, as I mentioned, around the end of the call, we are going to open the mics. So obviously, everybody would be able to participate in that discussion, join in that discussion. We just ask that we be cognizant of everyone else who is attending, and just have a really nice, healthy, helpful discussion here. So with that said, quickly going through the agenda today. We are going to cover some announcements, upcoming activities. Corey would be kind of guiding us through all of that. Once we are done with that, we have Jack Stromberg on the call today, who is going to talk to us about application gateway for containers. After that, we'll walk through some of the roadmap highlights, what things just got GA preview as well as deprecated. And then after that, we are just going to open it up for more discussions, right? So that's the overall agenda. At any point of time, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Feel free to have a discussion in the chat as well. If you think it's better to hold off and talk about whatever questions or comments you have, we will have at the open mic. All right. That being said, I would hand over to Corey for the announcements. Corey, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Morning, folks, or happy whatever time of day it is for you. I see some familiar names from around the world. Always nice to see people. So going to go through some recent announcements as well as some of our upcoming events. But we're going to start with something to hit. So if it's morning for you like it is for me, I hope you had your coffee before we hit you with that. But folks may have seen yesterday was the official GA announcement for AKS Automatic. It's been a long road to get here, and we're super excited to have this now be generally available to the community. We're excited to get folks hands-on with Automatic. And we actually had a virtual event yesterday that is now available on demand. So it's chock full of great content. We had a special keynote from Priya Vergadia, where she did a sketch overview of kind of the state of cloud native and AI to set the stage. Then we had some highlights from Brendan Burns, fireside chat, as well as a deep dive into Automatic and some sweet demos. So if you were not able to catch that yesterday, please feel free to hop on over and catch it on demand and share the news. And in conjunction with the general availability of AKS Automatic, we will also be kicking off an AKS Automatic hackathon starting October 14th. It's going to run for 4 weeks, and we'll be announcing the winners from the show floor at KubeCon North America in Atlanta. So it'll be a live stream. Sanket's going to figure out how we can make that look good because he's our resident video tech expert. And we will be having kickoff calls in both North America, EMEA friendly time zones, as well as APAC time zones, so that all of our friends can get started. So super exciting. We're really, really happy to have AKS Automatic move to general availability, and we'll continue to see more developments there as the year progresses. Now, I mentioned events. I feel like half the time I come on here and all I do is talk about events. I swear I have a day job as well. So we do have some additional events coming up. Next week, there is a Migrate and Modernize Summit happening. This is a virtual summit. AKS Automatic is going to be featured in Jeremy Winter's keynote, and we'll also have Ken Kilty from our team showing a demo on using the GitHub Copilot app modernization for Java, and then using that to deploy to modernize an app and then deploy to AKS Automatic. So some really cool demos and content there if that's something that you're interested in. We'll also be at GitHub Universe. And we've also recently announced our Azure Day with Kubernetes pre-day event for KubeCon North America. I will drop the link because registration is open now. So if you're planning to be in Atlanta or you're based in Atlanta, feel free to come and join us. And that obviously goes right before KubeCon North America. So we'd love to see the community there. If you are planning to attend, let us know. If you are interested in a discount code for attendance, reach out to me over Teams, and I'll be happy to help you out there. And then finally, Microsoft Ignite at the end of November, and that'll be in San Francisco. And then I think I probably deserve a vacation after that point. There also, as Sanket mentioned, the team have been putting together lots of awesome content. And so now streaming, we have the AKS Me Anything Season 2. Sanket, George, and team have been working to pull together a great season of episodes for you, and it's available everywhere that you might like to listen. You can check it out on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, which also leads us into, should I pause? Let people scan. We also have a new series going now called Upstream at AKS, where we dive into all of the work that the AKS team do in the upstream community, working on projects. And this is hosted by Lockie Evanson, who I think bears no introduction. And finally, because oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, even if you're not able to scan those, we will make sure to put all the links here in the link roundup at the end of the call as well. So yeah, you should find them there.
Yes. And then because we took a break, we didn't actually have any MVP content spotlight submissions this month. So if you have been putting out some great content, can I hear some people putting out some content on AKS Automatic, perhaps? Please submit it to be featured as our MVP content spotlight for October. And if you're interested in the Microsoft MVP program, there's a link at the bottom there for you to learn more about that. And I'm now going to hand over to Jack to do the deep dive.
Awesome.
And Jack.
Thank you so much. I'm not sure. Cool. Did that change the slide for everyone?
No, I think you have to take control
Right.
from me somehow. There we go. Perfect.
All right, cool beans. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me back. I think it's been over a year since we've done a video. So thank you again for having us out. For those that that don't know me, I'm from a team called Application Gateway. We offer layer 7 or application load balancing to Azure. And just as a quick recap, years back, Application Gateway was like one of the first services that was introduced on Azure. And at the time, we did load balancing for traditional infrastructure workloads. So virtual machine scale sets, app services. And then down the road, this thing called Kubernetes came about. And so we built an ingress controller. And that ingress controller is responsible for translating your ingress API into load balancing intent. And we've had this solution called the App Gateway Ingress Controller available for a couple of years now. It's offered, kind of the traditional load balancing capabilities that you expect: DLS offloading, cookie-based affinity, HTTP, S end-to-end mutual authentication, etc. But over the past couple of years, especially with Kubernetes kind of pushing the bar forward, a lot of new capabilities and demands have been asked by the community. And so we took a second to go back to the drawing board and say, how do we build a great experience for load balancing in Kubernetes? And it looks like I'm off one slide. And so we introduced Application Gateway for containers. Again, we started with a Kubernetes mindset of how do we improve the experience and how do we make sure that we address the concerns from the community. And so a big thing that went into this project was making sure that we drive performance and scale as you would expect. Whether the solution is running in cluster or out of cluster, we want that experience to just be seamless and feel transparent to you. And so one thing that we're really excited about this solution is it was born first with Gateway API support. So as you've seen in previous community sessions, Gateway API is really the direction that the community is moving forward with. And so we embrace that as a standard and first effort for App Gateway for containers. And so We're also excited that we've introduced additional protocol support that the community has been asking forever. In our next slide here, since we last had synced and announced with everybody, we've added a ton of capabilities. When I was going through the changelog, kind of getting prepared for this session, it reminded me of like the intro of Star Wars, looking at all the PRs that we've done in the last year. But we're really, really excited to, I think, address many of the asks from the community, which is I need web application firewall support, protect my workloads out of the box. And so we're really excited to announce public preview of that. I'll talk a little bit about GA and we'll walk through. I have a little demo on how that works. The other thing that we're really excited about is announcement of general availability for Azure CNI overlay support. We'll talk a little bit about how that works, but for customers that are using KubeNet, we really, really strongly encourage you to start that migration process to get to CNI overlay. Take advantage of the new enhancements that come with CNI overlay. Additionally, we've also spent a lot of time on introducing additional protocol support. I talked a little bit about gRPC in the previous slide. Server sent events, WebSockets, really long-lived connections has been something that we've really focused on, making sure that you have a great experience out of the box. And then there's a lot of miscellaneous quality of life items. Introducing, when we had originally announced general availability of AGC, Gateway API had just moved to stable release version 1.0. And so there's been a lot of capabilities that have been brought about in Gateway API as it's moved to 1.1, 1.2, and now 1.3. And so we're excited to be in conformance with Gateway API 1.2.1. We do expect getting to 1.3, and I know that the community is working on version 1.4 here just around the corner. So there's a lot of quality of life items if you haven't already jumped over from Ingress API to Gateway API. So with that, I'm a big fan of just getting into the product and to kind of see how things go. So let me share my screen here quick. All right. Just for the other presenters, is this big enough font? Does this look good?
I don't think we are sharing the screen still.
Oh, here, let's turn it on. We're turning it on.
Cool.
Magic.
Yeah,
okay.
I think I can read.
All right, cool. So there's two different demos that I want to run through that show our two recent announcements, one on CNI overlay and one on Azure WAF support. And so for this environment, I've already set up, make that big. I've already deployed a gateway resource. And all it's doing is it's just listening on port 80. And I've also deployed an HTTP route resource. And all this is doing is when a request is sent to App Gateway for Containers, we're going to listen on port 80, and we're going to proxy that request to a service called backend v1. And what that looks like is this service here. So all it's doing is it spits out a response that shows which pod served up this request, and then just a little more information about like the path and the host name that was requested. So nothing super crazy there. But what's kind of cool about this is this AKS cluster. Let me jump to another tab here. Is running Azure CNI overlay. And so there really isn't too awful much to demo with Azure CNI Overlay, other than the fact that it just works out of the box, which is really cool. For those that are using Azure CNI, right, your pods are going to pull IP addresses from the subnet that your cluster is essentially deployed to, or I should say, it's going to pull IP addresses from the virtual network and subnet that you've defined. In CNI Overlay, right, the big value add is the network that's going to be used to provide IP addressing to your pods is local to the cluster. And so if we take a look at AGC itself, when we create this resource, we're injected into a different subnet. And so for this particular deployment, you can see AKS is provisioned into this subnet. App Gateway for Containers is provisioned into this subnet. And then I have a third subnet here for just a test VM. And the thing that I want to kind of show is, let's grab let's grab a list of our pods. And actually I need, and for this pod, it's kind of hard to see with the wrapping here, but basically it has an address of 10.244.1.175. And this tells me that that pod is pulling an address from the overlay network. It's not pulling it from my virtual network itself. And being more on the networking side, I'm really visual. So if I copy this address here, right, just to prove that that network is local only to the cluster, this request is going to time out. And the other thing that I also want to show is for customers that were using App Gateway Ingress Controller, a prior solution, especially if you're using KubeNet, you had to do all sorts of weird things like define route tables, and you had to handle getting traffic to that cluster manually. There's a lot of administrative overhead or operational overhead in order to provision this. And so one thing that's really nice about this integration as well is, if I take a look at the routes that are being advertised inside of this particular subnet, you'll notice that your routing table doesn't even have the routes to that overlay network. Like it's just like not known to the virtual network. And so we're really excited to be one of the first services that sits outside of the Kubernetes cluster, but is harmoniously deployed with connectivity to that CNI overlay network. Essentially what happens is there's a routing domain for your overlay network that the pods are able to be connected to. And we've extended that routing domain directly to the App Gateway for Containers subnet. And so there's a trust between those two, and that's what allows the proxying of traffic. So the good news is there's no crazy route table configuration. There's no essentially overhead of having to proxy through even another solution between AGC and your AKS cluster. It's very native to the platform. So definitely go check out CNI Overlay. Make sure, again, if you're running KubeNet, to jump over to CNI Overlay. There's great options to do in-place migrations. You don't have to rebuild your cluster. That's a common question I get asked. You can do it all in place, which is really exciting. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about is, and this has been like our most asked feature, is web application firewall support. So one of the things that differentiates App Gateway from containers from other solutions is the ability to just protect the workloads out of the box. So very similar to Azure Front Door or Application Gateway, we have the concept of WAF policy. And WAF policy comes with a ton of out-of-box configurations to improve the overall security posture of your workloads. We can do things like we have pre-built-in rules that will do mitigation against kind of the top 10 OWASP vulnerabilities. So these are things like SQL injections, cross-site scripting, cross-site includes, etc. And this is just essentially a shield that sits right in front of AGC, or it's part of Application Gateway for containers. The way that we configure this is there's a new custom resource that's defined in App Gateway for containers inside your Kubernetes cluster called a Web Application Firewall Policy. And all this does is it references an existing WAF policy that you have in Azure. So if you're using Application Gateway for, let's say, doing load balancing to a couple of VMs that you have or to an app service, and then you also want to use that same WAF policy for your Kubernetes workloads, you can use the same policy for both services, which is pretty neat. So for the purposes of this demo, to kind of see how WAF works, what I'll do is I'll jump back to our cluster here and I'll create a new custom resource for this web application firewall policy. And this is really the secret sauce. Is there's a target reference of where you want the WAF policy to be targeted. So in this case, you can target either a gateway to protect all of the different services that's underneath it. You can target a gateway's listener, or you can target an individual path. So if you have different policies and you want different protections depending on what you're load balancing, you have that flexibility. And then you simply reference the WAF policy that exists in Azure. If you want a full Kubernetes experience, you can pair this with Azure Service Operator to create those WAF policies local from the cluster. Or if you have a separate pipeline and you're creating those Azure resources through like Terraform, Bicep, etc., you would just simply reference the resource ID in here accordingly. And under the covers, what this command did is it linked to what we call a security policy in App Gateway for containers. So you can kind of see this policy is now made available to the administrators that are going to be provisioning the load balancing configuration within the cluster. And this is, again, my WAF policy that's linked. So that's great, but what does it actually do? So once the policy is created, like I said, there's a bunch of managed rules that are offered out of the box to protect you from numerous different vulnerabilities. The easiest way that I like to visualize this is, let's say that you wanted to try to read like a password local to the service, right? If your application was just arbitrarily executing bash requests, right? Like this would protect you out of the box. Similar scenario, not that you would ever have a workload that would just arguably search by SQL query. But in this case, right, like you would want to protect from just arbitrarily passing SQL injections into your application. And so out of the box, to kind of show the differences in customization, right, I have all these different policies. For the purposes of this example, I've gone through and I've disabled a couple of checks for SQL requests. In my case, my application is a little bit against the norm in that I want to do filtering against those SQL queries directly. But if I didn't want to do that, I can simply enable those out-of-box rules again. And you can see that we're now protecting against those SQL injections out of the box again. So it's really neat to have that extra layer of security just built right into App Gateway for Containers. If you also want further customizations, you want to control which IP addresses are connecting, if you want to be able to allow or deny requests with specific patterns, WAF offers this all out of the box. So you have tons of flexibility and capabilities there to really tailor and customize to your environment. So I'm kind of at the 15-minute mark here. I want to make sure that the rest of the content gets in for the rest of this call, but I'll hang around. If there's any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. And then when we get to the Q&A section, I'm also happy to answer any questions as well. But this was a bit of a higher level overview, so I'm happy to get a little bit deeper into the questions as well. But yeah, thank you again for having me. And again, we're really excited to have those announcements with CNI Overlay and WAF GA, or WAF Public Preview. The two things that I will say is we commonly hear, when will WAF GA? And what is your stance on private front-end connectivity? WAF GA, I am excited to say that that will happen before the end of this calendar year. We're very close to the announcement of that. Can't give exact dates, but we're very close. And the second thing is private front-end. I can guarantee that that is going to come to App Gateway for Containers. It's actively in development, and we're pretty excited to share what we'll have a little bit later this year as well. So yeah, thank you again, Sankit. I'll kick it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. I think that was a pretty amazing demo. There were two questions actually in the chat. One was related to private front end, which I think you already addressed. There is one more around front door. The question says, we are using front door in front of App Gateway for containers. Is it recommended to now move out of front door WAF altogether?
Great question. So front door and application gateway are a little bit different in that front door is really great if you have globally deployed solutions. So let's say that you have two different Kubernetes clusters, they're running in two different regions, and you want to distribute the traffic between those environments. Front door is definitely the right tool for the job. The other thing too is front door offers CDN capabilities. So if you want to cache that content and get it closest to the customer, that's a great solution as well. It is fully supported if you want to chain Azure Front Door and App Gateway for Containers together. We see a lot of customers use App Gateway for Containers to kind of consolidate all of those endpoints to a single, one or two known front end, and then you would have AGC as an origin to Azure Front Door. So I wouldn't say that it's a replacement for Azure Front Door by any means, just a couple of different tools depending on the job and the requirements that you have.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. Thanks again for all the awesomeness of AGC. Okay. So we'll move on to the next section here, which is around the roadmap updates. I'm just switching to the presentation, so give me a minute. It's probably going to take a minute. I should have done this in a different way, done this in a slightly better way, I guess. All right, there we are. Roadmap highlights. So as you're aware, I think every month we look at the AKS public roadmap and go through what did we recently do as GA, what did we recently do as in previews and so forth, right? I mean, we kind of walk you through all the different things that actually move the needle on that roadmap. You can access this roadmap on aka.ms/AKS/roadmap. So if you go on here, there is not just what we are going to discuss today, but there is a whole bunch of other things that are also in progress that our team is planning to work on. Feel free to have a discussion on there with the team for any feature that is of interest to you as well. A quick disclaimer here. We will be talking about some timelines, especially as we talk about previews there. These timelines are at best estimates right now. right? We always talk about these in terms of how we know that things are progressing today. As with any product, I mean, there are like literally 50 dependencies that we continue to work on, and as those dependencies change, sometimes the timelines can change as well. So just keep that in mind, especially if you're using like any of the hard dates for your project plans and so forth. Going into the roadmap, especially the generally available items. First one is AKS Automatic. I think we have already talked about that. Corey shared this amazing video, which we all were kind of enthralled with. So we do have, we did the GA of AKS Automatic. In fact, just yesterday was the GA event. The GA event, entire event is covered on YouTube as well. If you go onto the AKS YouTube channel, you'll find it there. I would highly recommend that you check that out. I'm not going to talk a lot about that here because I think we've already discussed that. Moving on, the next one is deployment safeguard. And the deployment safeguard is really a feature that allows an easier operational experience, by allowing you to gate check or almost put like guardrails on your deployment. This feature is now enabled by default when you start creating your new clusters. You can also set up these guardrails by enabling safeguards on your existing deployments now. And then once you set them up on your existing deployments, you're going to start getting the non-compliance warnings based on the rules on those guardrails as well. We talked about AKS Automatic again several times during this call today, and deployment safeguard is extremely crucial feature for Automatic, because as you can start imagining, when you're putting together these guardrails, you are now allowing almost a hands-off more operational mode for your clusters, right? So pretty amazing feature. Even if you are not using AKS Automatic, definitely something to check for from a policy enforcement standpoint. The next one is node auto provision. This is a little bit old, but when we were putting this call together, I realized that when we had this last call in July, we talked about node auto provision getting to GA, but it was not GA still. So the feature is now generally available. As a quick recap, this is a managed Carpenter version of in AKS, right? It looks at your pod resource utilization, automatically chooses VM configurations to scale out in the most efficient and cost-effective manner. If you have reserved instances, or let's say you want very specific VM SKUs that you prefer to use when you're scaling out, you can also specify those. We do have Wilson on the call here as well. So Wilson, if you want to add anything, to feel free to add to this about NAP.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So as Sanket mentioned, node auto provision has been of high interest for a lot of customers. So excited to have that be GA currently. It is actually the scaling experience for AKS Automatic, allowing dynamic mixed SKU scaling, and just making it easier to be able to manage your machines, right? So if there's any questions, feel free to engage in the chat. We also have some content on our AKS YouTube page, as well as other materials kind of talking about what you can expect from the NAP experience. And again, happy to answer any questions, but let's get building.
Absolutely. Thanks, Wilson. And since I have you here on the stage anyways, let's just quickly talk about the basic to standard load balancer as well, because that went GA. And I think a lot of you guys might be already aware that on 30th of September, the end of this month, the basic load balancer will be retired. I mean, this is more of a Azure-wide change, not specific to AKS, but if you're still using basic load balancer, you would want to move to standard load balancer, and we have that upgrade path now. Again,
Yeah.
Wilson, feel free to add to that.
Yeah, so for context, there's kind of two experiences in AKS that are being retired. One at the Azure level being the basic load balancer and also the basic IP. The other being availability sets, right? And kind of in line with, as they're based off of basic load balancers availability sets are being deprecated as well. So we created a migration path for both of these features to one, the basic load balancer to standard load balancer and standard IP, where you can use the Azure CLI in a very simplified command to automatically perform that migration. Very seamless if done right, right? But for both of those features, we want to encourage people to make that move before September 30th to ensure that if there's any hiccups, you have the proper Azure support. As a flag for this, Azure support will be wrapping up once the feature is officially retired on that September 30th date. Technically, the features will be functional after that time, but should you have any issues, you wouldn't have access to Azure support post that date. So we really encourage you to check out our content related to these migration paths. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to our team.
Awesome. And feel free to correct me here, but our recommendation has always been to use standard load balancer for your production instances, right? So hopefully this is something that you just need to do in lower environments if it still applies to you. And that there is going to be downtime as well when you do the upgrade.
Yes, there will be some downtime, so we do recommend customers kind of plan out this migration experience to kind of low business hours. But all of that information in terms of our recommendations is referenced in our public documentation that is being added to the chat as I speak.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Wilson. So moving on to the next one, the static egress gateway public prefix. Static egress gateways, as you might be aware, are helpful to streamline your outbound traffic for your AKS workloads. Now, this particular one, we have divided that into two different GA dates, right? There is going to be one for public prefix, there is one for private prefix. The one that we are talking about right now is specifically for the public prefix, so that one did go GA as well. The next one is LTS, support for the KDA add-on. Again, a quick recap on the LTS. LTS is your long-term support for AKS versions 1.27 and beyond. I guess at this point, though, 1.27 is already in the past. I think, if I'm not wrong, the the LTS support for 1.27 ended earlier this year, so somewhere in July. So really 1.28 and later right now. I know the LTS team has also been working on the Istio support, if that is one of the upcoming questions around this. So I guess that's expected to land soon as well. And once that lands, we should be able to close the support scope for the add-ons that are supported with LTS. We do have Karthikeyan here as well. Karthikeyan, in case you want to add anything here, feel free to add.
Thank you so much, Sanket and team. Yeah, I think the team is working hard to make sure that we get all the managed add-ons supported as part of the LTS offering. You might have seen the blog post that rolled out earlier a couple of months back. I'll share the link to that that covers our plan and roadmap and strategy. Right now, we're excited to say that the managed KDA, which is one of the most sought after add-ons, is officially in support, like Sanket mentioned. And we do offer all versions as LTS running up to 133, which is our most recent one. We have 34 coming on preview shortly, and that will also get into LTS once it goes GA. And like Sanket mentioned, we are excited to bring Istio shortly. Very soon, you'll see an announcement that Istio is also managed. Istio is also fully supported by long-term support versions on all our versions. So stay tuned for that. If there are any comments, questions, happy to take that for upgrades or LTS. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Karthik. Last one on the GA, the VNet integration. I think we've discussed this before on the earlier editions of this community call, but VNet integration continues to have a rolling GA as we are rolling it across the regions. We do have multiple regions covered as of now, but if there is a need for this feature to be in a region that we are not in, do let us know. I mean, you can either reach out to us on GitHub on the issue that we have on GitHub. 2729 is the issue number for VNet integration, or do leave a comment here in the comments, here in the chat, or even once this video is up on the YouTube publicly. And we'll do our best effort to prioritize that region as well. All right, so moving on to the next one, the public previews. It's short list here, but I think extremely impactful. The first one is 5208 issue, which is MCP server for AKS. So MCP server, Model Context Protocol, as you all are aware by now. If you're not, then I guess you're missing the AI wave. But basically, this MCP server is providing the agentic support for AKS. So you might have already seen this announcement on the blog. We have also covered this on the YouTube channel. We have been talking about this. Julia, who is here with us, has been talking about this on the YouTube as well. I'm pretty certain you would see some additional updates coming through as we roll into KubeCon and the event season there. So this is really this MCP server is open source. It's really a bridge between AKS and the AI-assisted tools, like think about GitHub Copilot, Claude, or any other MCP compatible AI assistants that you can. And you can basically use those AI assistants to perform your typical AKS task in natural language, such as creating or updating AKS resources, fetching AKS cluster details such as VNets, subnets, NSGs, and generally managing your fleet operations for multi-cluster scenarios and all. So this is open source, as I mentioned. We will be sharing the GitHub link as well in the chat or in the video description. We do have Julia on the call. Julia, is there anything that you would like to add to this?
Yeah, thanks for the great introduction, Sanket. I think you covered most of it. The MCP server for AKS is now in public preview. It's also fully open source. We'll be linking the GitHub repository as well. And yeah, it serves as kind of the connection between AI agents and AKS clusters. We're planning on introducing a couple new tools in the coming few weeks, as well as supporting remote hosted MCP. So right now, the MCP server runs locally. You can run it on your own machine or within VS Code. And we're also going to be adding some guidance as well as support for remote hosted over HTTP. So you'll be able to also deploy your MCP server and connect to it remote and expose an endpoint to connect to your agents as well.
It's awesome. Thanks, Julia.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, if there are questions, comments, we would love to hear that. Drop them in the chat, and we can talk about it more. Next one is the multiple load balancer. Now, this is a little bit of a niche scenario, I guess, but we do now support multiple load balancers per cluster. Typically, you would have a single load balancer, which wherein you would start running into some limitations, like let's say the number of IPs or NICs. So needless to say, with multiple load balancer support, you're able to start going beyond some of these limitations that you had. Moving to the next one, we have managed namespaces. Managed namespaces are providing a logical way for us to isolate workloads within the cluster. So you can enforce resource quotas, network policies, access control, all of these at a namespace level, right? And it kind of becomes particularly useful for ensuring the consistency and governance in multi-tenant scenarios there. Again, we talked about AKS Automatic, and managed namespace becomes a great supporting feature as well. We do have Jack here on the call, who is a PM for this feature. I'm just going to ask him if he has anything to share. Jack?
Yeah, thanks, Sanket. So yeah, I think Sanket covers the bulk of it. Managed namespaces, the main thing we're hoping to do is just introduce a very easy way to just set up pre-configured namespaces in your AKS clusters. So Sanket mentioned you could do your quotas, you can do your access controls, you can do your network policies. You can also really easily select how we interact with existing namespaces. if you suddenly no longer want the namespace to be managed, you can easily just delete the ARM handle and keep the namespace around or delete the entirety of it. With the Azure RBAC integration, you have pretty fine-grained ways to control who can actually access the namespace. So yeah, we're currently in public preview. We hope to preview in the coming few months. So if anyone has any interest in the feature, please do go ahead and give it a spin. And please also do reach out with any feedback that you do have.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. So I know we have about 5 minutes remaining, so I'm just going to start going a little bit faster here. Last one, local DNS cache. So essentially, we are enhancing the DNS resolution, performance, and resiliency. For this feature, you can almost think of a local DNS proxy that is created on each node. So obviously, you have the DNS information cache there. Helps reduce querying latencies. If there are network blips that you're encountering, it's going to help improve the reliability even with those network disruptions. A bunch of goodness there with local DNS cache. Moving on to the next one, I really wanted to quickly talk about the deprecations and retirements. Few different things here. On end of this month, we are the virtual machine VM availability sets would be retired. And again, this is an Azure-wide change as well. So if you've not already done that, we definitely recommend you make a switch to the VM node pools before end of this month. Back in March, actually, we stopped allowing newer clusters to be created with availability sets. So hopefully we have like 6 months of time that was given for transitioning over. And we do have a CLI-based interface as well for migration that would automatically migrate your clusters from AV sets to VM node pools. So that's one. Secondly, just running through these, Windows Server 2019 is going to be retired on 1st of March. So typically OS upgrades take a long time in organizations. There are longer turnaround times, which is why we just wanted to highlight it 6 months ahead of time. So that's one. Corey, I see your hand up.
Yeah, correction to what's written here for Azure Linux 2.0. That is retiring on November 30th, 2025. It has not already retired, but there is documentation on migrating from 2.0 to 3.0 that is available. So that will be retiring at the end of November, not in July.
Got it. Sorry, my bad there. Thanks for correcting. But yeah, that was the third one. Linux 2.0 is retiring. So we would definitely encourage all of you guys to move on to 3.0, and we do have documentation around the move itself. That being said, we would like to quickly open the mic for the attendees. We will be around. The team will be around. So if there are any questions, feel free to get off the mic and ask the questions as well. Love to hear from you. No one. I saw the chat was pretty. It was pretty chatty on the chat. So hoping we have any other outstanding questions that we need to talk to with the PMs. We have a bunch of PMs as well on the call today. There is one, Wilson. I don't know if you've already talked about this, but any updates on availability of NAP support in Azure Terraform provider?
That is still in progress. I will have a better timeline update in the coming weeks.
Awesome. Thanks. Let's see, is there anything else? All right. If there are no other questions, okay, GA for Argo add-on. Karthik, are you still around? Oh, I'm sorry. This might not be Karthik, right? So.
Hey, sorry, I missed a call out. Go ahead.
No,
Sanket.
I'm sorry. I was relating this to LTS. It's not related to LTS. I think this is the GA for Argo add-on.
That's right. Yeah.
Do
I
we
think
have
we
anyone?
have Arnav and team for that. We can follow up.
Okay.
Is there a question for it? Oh, is the question about GA of our Argo? add-on?
Yeah.
I see. I'm not aware. We can follow up with the ARC team.
Okay. Yep. Sorry about that. Right. So Andres will follow up and get back to you on that one. Okay. If there are no other questions, then we can close this call. Thank you all so much for joining. This was definitely great being together again with all of you guys after the break. As always, please do share this with your colleagues, with anybody who is working with AKS. We would love to hear more from every one of you. Okay. Thanks all. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
folks.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.